Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Last week I hit 100 episodes, so today is a special celebratory 100 episode Ask Me Anything. Thank you if you sent me in a question. I've got quite a lot to get through. Originally, I was going to have a special guest interview me. Unfortunately, that person is not very well, so I'm just going to do it on my own. So we've got a lot of questions to get through here, so let's just dive right in. Nina L says, if episode 1 met episode 100 Jason, what would they laugh about? What would they laugh about? I think that episode 1 was still masking his lack of being able to focus and understand what the guest is saying and not consciously noticing it and asking clarification questions because it will make him feel stupid. Probably that. Which I'm now much better at spotting. If I've not followed something, I'll ask the guest to clarify that. So, yeah, I think that's my answer. Dan S says, what's the most unproductive thing you do that you secretly defend? Unproductive thing that I secretly defend. Probably like over systematizing things. I can sometimes get so focused on creating a certain way of doing things, and then I'm just like in the weeds, and then I've made this absolute Frankenstein's monster of spreadsheets or like web applications and stuff. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, that was a total waste of time. But I don't know, but it's hard because I'm also like trying to build systems, so sometimes they don't go to plan. So I guess constantly building on top of systems without proper planning probably would be one thing. Rob says, "What's the pettiest hill you're willing to die on?" Pettiest. So what's like a petty opinion that I hold? Pettiest hill. Okay, this is a totally random one, but it's just something I thought of. So, so it's related to dating apps. So it would be stop posting pictures with all of your friends because no one can tell which one you are. And then 2, I don't know if this is a hill that I'm willing to die on. On 2 would be never go straight in with a 3-minute voice note on a dating app or otherwise. This happened to me recently, both on Hinge and then on Instagram. So the funny thing about this is the person that was messaging me on Instagram was referring to how annoying it is on Hinge when someone sends them a 2-minute voice note out of nowhere. So that was the conversation, that was the opener, and the DM was like a little bit like kind of flirtatious, you know what I mean? So it was like this person was then telling me like how like awkward it was. This person just randomly sent them a voice note while they're randomly sending me a voice note. So it was just really strange. So yeah, definitely that. Like I can do a bit of a voice note from time to time, but I do my best I'll just transcribe it. Like if I'm feeling lazy, I really take issue with people who are always sending voice notes. Like, or at least send it and be like, look, I know it was a bit selfish. I was just busy or whatever. Forgive the voice note or whatever. We don't need to be listening to you on a podcast. Here he is saying his thoughts to the world, but you come here voluntarily. But you can get now like there's like transcription things on Instagram, and I thought they were introducing it on WhatsApp, but they've not. That will be really useful because I got lots of fucking voice notes and just made in. So yeah, pettiest hill. Stop sending voice notes. I include myself in that. All right, LRP. Congratulations on hitting 100 episodes. Thank you very much. What's the moment that made you think this was all worth it? What's the moment that made me think this was all worth it? I don't know if there has been a moment. It's been a weird one, to be honest. Like, it's hard celebrating these things in like what is quite a solitary endeavor. Like, it's me that does all the outreach, it's me that does all the guest bookings, it's me that does all the prep, it's me that does all the interviewing, it's me that does the edits, it's me that does the promotion. Obviously, I do interview people, and you guys are supportive and send me questions and stuff like that, and that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. So it's sometimes hard to celebrate something on your own. Like, even though, like, yeah, even like, because like the internet is like awesome, but so sometimes like I feel frustrated that people are like all spread out around the world and stuff, and they're not like living in the same town as me. And so, but hopefully in the future, bigger audience, and I can do like some in-person shows or whatever, and that could be something that will allow more of an in-person vibe. Um, but what was there a moment that made me think it was all worth it? I think just there's a couple of times on last week where I looked at my Spotify page and I just saw the 100, like hashtag 100 Dylan Scott episode title, and I was like, that looks fucking cool. Like, looking down and then just like flicking through like the catalog, and I'm like, that's all my work, and I'm really proud of that. So, and I think just the thought that now someone could come across the show for the first time and they've got fucking weeks of, like, if you played it consistently, literal weeks of content there that they could get through. So yeah, I think that makes me feel like it's worth it, and I love the feeling of doing a thing. I love backing up actions with what I say I'm going to do. I've always hated it when I've done the opposite of that, which is very rare these days. But like, love it when I just, yeah, I say I'm going to do this. I'm not going to stop publishing, and then I do it. Like, that gives me like a lot of self confidence. Chris Williamson often says, like, podcaster, that podcast is a self improvement vehicle masquerading as a podcast. And I think that is so like bang on the money, because you just have to, there's so many skills that you need to do to be able to do a podcast, and it just allows you, especially when you're doing it in the self-improvement space. And yeah, it's awesome. So that's definitely part of the benefit and why it's worth it. So thank you for the question. Aaron D says, you just hit 100 episodes. Aaron D says, congratulations on hitting 100. Thank you very much. What part of the journey was way harder than you expected? I think I expected it to be hard, to be honest. Like the late nights and stuff, which is all like a big part of it. Like, I expected that to be hard. So it wasn't unexpected. You know, those feelings of imposter syndrome, again, like, were there early on, so they weren't unexpected. Probably, I think navigating, there was a period in the middle, I don't know, episode 40, 50, something like that, where I was really struggling with this. How much do I share about Jason versus talking to the guest, asking the guest questions, and like having this like guilt that I'm talking about myself. And yeah, really getting through that was really tough, because I basically had some unsolicited feedback from someone that was close to me. And it just, like, when you take someone's opinion in such high esteem and then trying to kind of remap that neural pathway of going, well, maybe what that person is saying is wrong, and trusting your own intuition, is that has definitely been a challenge, because there is, you know, a certain amount of merit in the comment Like, I take that. Like, if all the podcast was just me talking about myself and not letting the guests say anything, yeah, that's stupid. That's not going to be interesting. So there is a balance to be had, but also some of the best conversations I've ever had, the ones where I give a lot more. And I've had feedback in the past where recently, actually, where one of my guests said, I said, let's like make this all about you today. I don't want to, I'm not going to offer as much. We're going to try a different approach. And they came away just being like, I really missed you in that conversation. Like, you were more professional, but I missed having being able to bounce off you, and it stopped that person from opening up. So that would definitely be a reason to sort of back up my intuition in terms of my approach. And yeah, so thank you very much for the question. Lucy S says, out of the last 100 episodes, what nearly made you quit but didn't? Quite a few. There was what I just spoke about then, and just lots of last minute publishing. And there was a few times when I kept on having issues with my podcast host provider, and there was just like technical issues with episodes that I'd already recorded. And then because of these technical issues, I wouldn't be able to use them to publish. And there was a time when I did, what was it, like midnight on a Sunday? I just did a random Ask Me Anything because I didn't have anything because this episode had broken. So like, but did I nearly quit? In fairness, I didn't then, but it crossed my mind where I was like, what is the fucking point? Or it doesn't matter if I miss one day. Like, it doesn't matter if I miss 1 week. And that to me, although it is not quitting, like, I see not publishing every week as quitting. So that's why I've held on to that for such a long time. So hope that answers the question. All right, next question. What belief did you hold when you first started the podcast that you now see completely differently? What belief did I hold? I think it would probably be, I'm trying to think of, it would be around self-belief. So I think it would be that, I think back then I probably thought I was broken. Yeah. I think that I thought that I was like broken goods, baggage, alcohol, all the rest of it. And that I needed to do all this stuff to make up for this broken element of me. And I think now I don't see it that way. Yes, I've had challenges, but yeah, but I think, but I'm also glad I did do things, if that makes sense. Like, I'm glad I started the podcast. I'm glad I got into High Rocks. But are they, is that like just papering over cracks? No, because yeah, I think there were definite parts of me that needed addressing, and like, I have done that. And then, but having gone through that difficult process has made me like such a more resilient and well-rounded person. So like, I no longer believe like that I'm broken or anything. I just think I've had a different path. Everyone's got a different path, haven't they? And you're just like fixing these problems along the way. And although all the work is not complete, I've definitely done like a huge amount of it, and it's done a huge amount for my self-confidence and like self-love, and actually like liking who I am. So yeah, that's a belief that has now changed. So thank you for that difficult question. Find Your Stride coach says, what's one mistake that taught you the most? Mistake. I would say not batch recording enough podcast episodes when times are good. Because although in December I did batch a lot, so I was able to travel and stuff and still publish weekly, but then like I used all those up and then I got very unwell and had to record one and edit one while I was really unwell. And that was horrible, really not fun. Yeah. And like not being too harsh on myself there because the busy period over Christmas and whatnot, but definitely need to get better at having a lot more recordings in the bank so that when that happens, I am able to relax a little bit more. So that's that. Thank you for the question. Okay, Kaylee T says, what's something you think most people misunderstand about you? Misunderstand. Probably that I think sometimes people assume that I have like issues with mental health, something that comes up now and again. You know, like I'm trying to think of an example. Just people just drop in like, "Oh, you're doing well. You okay?" Or like just the way that people say it is like not in like a patronizing way, but just like, "Oh yeah, like I'm fine." I think because like I've been very open when I go through a difficult time of I don't even call it depression anymore. I just call it like low mood. And but what that there is like a bit of a visibility bias there because I talk about it, therefore you get like labeled with it. Whereas there are lots of people who go through it but just don't talk about it. And does that make sense? So then therefore you then become someone who people assume with like mental health. But and despite that, like I'm pretty stable. And, you know, perhaps there is a lagging metric there in terms of um my mental health is like much better than it was like 12 months ago or 24 months ago or whatever. So perhaps there's a lagging identity there that when people just aren't like fully up to speed with you. So yeah, I would say it would be that. Kaylee's sent 3 in. So the next one is, if you could turn back the clock, what's one thing you would change? My instinct is to answer this along the lines of like I wouldn't change anything. You know, we go. There's no point regretting the past. Like everything happens for a reason, and I do subscribe to that somewhat. But it's also a bit of a cop out, isn't it? So, like, is there anything I would change? So I tell you what, so here's one. So I started listening to podcasts like back in 2016 or something, which was not too long after like they first started. And I remember thinking I should start a podcast. And this would have been, yeah, like what, 10 years ago. And I also thought it when I was doing my world trip travel that was 9 years ago. And I remember thinking I should start like interviewing people that I meet on the road. That would be dead interesting. Didn't do it. I remember talking about it and some people saying, "Oh yeah, that would be cool." And this was before video podcast, so I could have just literally just had a microphone and it would have been like super easy. And then you look and then think, wow, like what if I'd have been doing the podcast for 10 years? Where would I be at now? So probably that, and just wishing that I'd done listen to my inner voice a little bit more when I was younger, like early 20s. But I was very much trapped in a very busy job with a lot of pressure and like feeling like I had to like subjugate my like needs in terms of creative expression and stuff. But that's just the journey we go through, isn't it? And I had to go through all that to become the person I am today. And hopefully that will make for a much more interesting podcast post. So There you go. So I did find something there. And the last one from Kaylee is, what moment in your life was shaped by someone else's kindness? There was a time just after my last breakup. I was a bit of a mess, drinking a lot, lost some friends, and one person in particular kind of like stepped up and was there for me. I went and stayed with them, and yeah, it was a bit of a respite for me in a time of need, and I will be always grateful to that person or people, because there were a couple for that period of my life. So yeah, very grateful, and yeah, I'm glad that I had that at that time. Yep. All right, Layla, we need an update on the morning routine. Morning routine. It's become a bit of a meme now, hasn't it? Like, podcasters talking about morning routines. Okay, it's pretty like, I think it's pretty small. All right, so what we're doing. So, excuse me. Okay, so wake up, and then now pretty much most mornings I'm putting an audiobook on first thing to kind of get me juices flowing. So I'll stick that on, go downstairs. At the moment, I don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing, but I'm doing, it's basically like 750 mils of water with a scoop of electrolyte, just plain ones, you don't need the fancy ones, a scoop of creatine, a flavored Newtonic, like nootropic stick, and is it Health or something, like a sachet of greens powder, and then I'm whisking that up and then chucking it down the hatch. I don't know if I'm going to do that long term. It's quite expensive, but I've not been very well, so this is kind of me just like getting back into routine. I bought like some of these things. I have some of those Newtonic sticks. I had a few left over because a subscription, they all start building up. So I did have that, and then I put some clothes on. I've not had a shower, and I go for a walk. It's about 15 to 20 minutes. At the moment, I'm taking my headphones with me and listening to audiobook. I used to always be like, I need to not have anything in. Like, I've got to be present, like listen to the birds and stuff. But I just found that like it was just a really boring start to my morning. And usually, for some reason, at that time in the morning, I come up like no ideas would come up. So, like, whereas if I go for a walk in the afternoon, I tend to get much more ideas. So I was like, okay, so I just need some input just to kind of get the juices flowing. So I'll do that. And it's just like a good time to get knowledge, isn't it? Come back, shower. I'm not doing cold plunge at the moment, just hot shower. And then, but I'll finish on cold. I try and do 30 seconds at least on cold. Me, like 18 months ago, I've been like, Jason, you pussy. But that's about all I can manage at the moment. Even less now that I'm getting back from illness. So I'm literally just doing a splash of cold because I'm still not 100%. And then usually I have music on at this point, actually, just to get me singing and loosened up for the day. Oh, sorry. Before that, I've made my coffee up and it's brewing. And then in the coffee at the moment it's ground coffee. I grind the beans, and then we go a capsule of L-theanine, put that in, and then is a tablespoon of cacao powder, a scoop of bulk beef isolate protein, banana fudge at the moment. So it's about like 35 grams protein, and then electrolyte, another scoop of creatine. Sometimes I put collagen powder in. And then I think that's it. Anything else? Yeah. And then I'll put that in my cafetiere and I'll like whisk it in the bottom. I've got this electric whisk that New Tonic sent me. Thank you very much. And so that's what I'll do at the moment. I'm just trying to like have those benefits of, because I don't normally fast in the mornings, but I'm like, just to get some protein in, I'm just going down that route at the moment. So anyways, then shower, continue listening to a book or something while I'm drinking like my coffee, sat on the sofa, cross-legged, and then I will do some meditation. And I'm doing at the moment I'm doing prayer, which is like a bit of a new thing. I don't know like if there's a particular god or whatever, but I'm just doing it. Like, makes me feel better. So it's more like, it's almost like a gratitude practice usually. It's just kind of like close my eyes and I just like think about like, thank you for keeping my family safe. Thank you for good health. Thank you for, well, I usually reflect on like the previous day, like thank you for whatever, food, abundance, whatever. And then I'll be like, I say, is there anything that you ask of me today? And then I try not to like answer it myself. I try to just like sit back a little bit, and then something will usually come up, whether that is divine or whether it's just in my head is up for debate, but something will come up, and I will just roll with that, and then that'll be kind of my intention for the day. So sometimes it can be surprising, but other times, the most frequent one I seem to get is just relax, just enjoy your day, which is interesting. So yeah, so that's a nice. That's usually like 3 minutes or whatever, and then I'll meditate. So sometimes I'll do like a 3-minute timer, sit, do the like prayer thing, and then I'll meditate. Or otherwise, or I'll just set like a 10-minute timer with like interval timers, and then I'll go straight into the meditation after the prayer. And then what else? I will take notes during the meditation, so I'll have my voice recorder running, just if there's anything there. Then afterwards, I'll process those notes if there's anything I need to do with them quickly. Bit of journaling and clarifying what's the most important task of the day, and then get into it. Time of day. So that's the morning routine. Ruche L again also says, Mr. Supplement, what are you actually using at the moment, brands, etc.? I did message this person direct actually with exactly what I'm using, but I think I'm a bit of a basic bitch at the moment with supplements. I've definitely dialed it back, on the kind of the more creative end of the spectrum, or like alternative supplements. But like, it's more just like, so if we like vitamins and stuff. So it's like, I've got a vitamin C, I've got a zinc, vitamin D, magnesium, and yeah, they're like the main ones, and nothing fancy, just brands off Amazon. And then other supplements, it's like creatine, beta alanine, electrolytes, protein powder, and most of those are bulk, the brand bulk. And creatine, I do get the Crea Pure one because apparently all of creatine is made in China. So I like my creatine made in Germany. What else? Pretty much it. I'm sure there's a few other ones. I do like Rhodiola rosea, which I get from Momentous during workouts. Supposed to help buffer stress and help you go for longer, like during high rock, stuff like that. So yeah, that's a bit of an idea on supplements. Thanks for the question. Jack M says fitness goals for 2026. Do you know what, bro? I've not really defined anything. Although I've like defined goals, it's something that needs a little bit more thought, I'll be honest. Like, I've got like kind of loose goals that, I want to continue doing high rocks, I want to do a bit of CrossFit, I want to do some BJJ at some point, but I'm kind of like, really thinking at the moment, like what I want to be doing. Like the next 7 or 8 weeks are going to be prepping for High Rocks Pro singles in Glasgow. So that's a goal there to get, sub 115 would be great. And then after that, like I'm going to Bali. I think I'm just going to like be training a lot of the CrossFit stuff because there's District L in summer, which is like a hybrid outdoors CrossFit type competition, and which is always really fun. So that would be good. And then, yeah, more reflection needed. So I will let you know. And Jack also says life goals for 2026. So some of you may have watched some of my goals episodes, and I have like I have like this 3-year sort of vision, and then I like build my goals off the back of them. So so I don't have like a yearly goal, if that makes sense. But like the goal I'm working towards at the moment is like to do with like short form content. So you might notice I'm posting a lot more on Instagram. So that's like a big goal for, yeah, I suppose that like a big goal for 2026 is like really up my game on Instagram. I think because I'm like, wow, I've got this like huge back catalog now of like these 100 episodes. So I'm like, if I can just bring more people in via like other means, they're going to like land on my stuff and go, wow, this guy's like got all this content. So I think that will definitely help grow the show and travel more. So, which I'm going to be doing, is already booked, and collaboration. They're some of like the big ones that I'm working on this year. So bringing more people in. I have even thought like partnering with someone on the podcast, like bringing in someone else for like the editing and stuff, or yeah, I think that would be interesting to have someone else to bounce off as well, and make it a bit of a team thing. So yeah, so they're the kind of a few different buckets that I'm working towards. Jack sent a couple more. If you could only train 2 things for a year, what are you choosing? Oh, I like questions like this. 2 things. I think it. So are we thinking like to stay good at high rocks or just in general? Like, even though I don't do a lot of them, but deadlifts, like, yeah, if I had to, like, would make sense, wouldn't it? So it'd be deadlifts and what else? So that's like posterior chain, hamstrings, back, sort of bit of lats there, isn't there? What else? Is like running counted? Do I want to run? Or would I prefer an erg? Oh man. Right, fuck it. We'll just assume that I've got cardio. So I would say I was gonna say dumbbell bench press, but I don't know, it's just bench press. Bench press and deadlift. That's all I'm doing. That'd be an interesting experiment, wouldn't it? Just do that all year. See how strong and big you get. The last one, go-to meal when you can't be asked. It would either be just like Indian takeout, but honestly, I don't really enjoy takeouts. So it would be Charlie Bingham's, is it? Bingham's? You can get that from Tesco or Boo's. Really nice, like ready meals, like refrigerated ones. They do like a good fish pie. So they're good, but I've just recently started using that Simmer Eats. So it's like every day I can't be asked. So it's great. So yeah, either of those. Thank you for the questions. Ben R says, which philosophical schools influence you most, and why is Diogenes the goat? Thanks, Ben. I would say I'm not as well versed in the various philosophical schools as Ben is, but probably like Stoicism, just because of like the amount of like Ryan Holiday's work that has inspired me, and all of his stuff is very stoic. And yeah, I would say, but also like probably a lot of the Freudian stuff as like, which is all like cause and effect, childhood trauma, etc. Like I'd be lying if I didn't say that hasn't influenced like how I show up. However, I've just started learning about Adlerian psychology, which is kind of like the opposite of the cause and effect thing, which is more like it basically denies trauma and states that like it's more like future based thinking. Like I have the power, like I have it within me to like change, be the person that I want to be or whatever. Like I'm not defined by my past experiences. So that's quite new. So I'm kind of that's like, yeah, I'm definitely just wanting to learn more about philosophy, to be honest, and understand the different schools. I just find it endlessly fascinating. I love the thinking about like how it changes like public discourse and um like sociality, I guess, in terms of like this one particular uh school of philosophy gets picked up and then ran with, and then it like drips into all the fabric of society, and then we just become like, "Oh, we think this way because of this." But of course, anything to do with like the mind is can only ever be theoretical, because like how would you prove it otherwise? Like attachment theory and stuff like that, like how you can't actually prove it, really. Like I know there is, well, I suppose they did do like experiments and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It feels like a lot of this stuff is quite malleable, and it's interesting to see like where the Venn diagrams are and where they overlap, and how we can integrate all of the different thinkings, different like trains of thought, if that makes sense. So yeah. So lots of them, clearly. So a bit of a shit answer, sorry. And why is Diogenes the goat? So we were chatting about Diogenes being like he like renounced all like finery and stuff. And was, I believe, one of the cynics, the original cynics. And then and he's the GOAT because he was before Cato the Younger. Because Cato the Younger like did something similar. Like he went into Seneca's gaff once with like muddy shoes on, like all over his fucking carpet and that. And he's like, "You don't need any of this. Like, stop fanning about. Like, doesn't matter." And he like lived in like some like little hut or something, even though he was like of the aristocracy and like well off and stuff. But so Ben and I were discussing this, and Diogenes was like the original one to do that. So there we go. That's why he's the GOAT. Tim P says, "You've talked about splitting your life up into chapters. What have you deliberately removed from your life that most people assume is essential?" What have I removed that most people think is essential? I would say removed. I don't always reply to emails. Yeah, I think I used to like feel like I need to like deal with everything and reply to everyone, and you just realize like at a certain point like it's just fucking mental, like the amount of emails and stuff that come through. So it's incredible like how many like urgent situations, inverted commas, kind of take care of themselves when they don't get replied to, if that makes sense. But that also does depend on like the context. Like there's different, obviously, like if you have an email from I don't know, a local authority or your accountant or something like that, yeah, that's important. But it's just like not having to respond to everything. So yeah. And is there anything else? This one probably isn't as well. See what you think. I would say cooking for myself. Like I know I've mentioned before about like getting pre-made meals, but there's like a bit of like a shame around like, oh, I've got to cook for myself all the time. But just being like, I don't enjoy cooking for one. And rather than like forcing myself to be like, oh, I've got to make everything from scratch, just be like, no, don't enjoy it. So while I'm living alone, I'm going to get meal prep and it's going to cost me a little bit of money, but I don't care because it's just not something that I enjoy. So I think there's a couple there anyways. Tom F, what does an ideal day look like for you right now? Well, I would say going back to the morning routine, like I'd follow that morning routine. Depends on like if it's like a regular work day or whatever, but I like a good space for some form of reflection. So it'd be like, a walk or something in the afternoon, seeing someone like family or friends, at least one person, which has not been much recently because I've not been very well. A gym session, like making progress on like a big task, like pushing a project forward. That's fucking awesome. That's about it. Caffeine, obviously. Yeah, I think like reflection, social time, movement, stroke gym, and pushing a project forward. Perfect day. Great. And then the more time outside, the better. I quite like doing like work stuff outside, to be honest. Like if I've got to do a call and it's appropriate enough, although quite often I just do it anyways, I'll take my calls outside. So I'll walk outside. I think that's one of my like values that I'm doing at the moment, which is like this like permissionless high agency, which is just doing stuff and not asking for permission. Like even if it's maybe not seen as the normal thing to be like doing like work calls like out and about whilst being outside, I'm just like, I don't care. I want to be outside. I am only on this planet for so many years. So I'm going to be outside enjoying the sun while we're doing this meeting because it makes no difference to my performance. In fact, will probably make me perform better. So yeah, a bit of it. I did that on a little bit for you. Okay. Chris T says, you seem very ambitious. How do you reconcile high performance without becoming emotionally closed off? That's a good question. So I suppose I need to answer, am I emotionally closed off to start with? I think I would probably say that I am very emotionally open, but I probably don't realize I can maybe be a little bit avoidant or like within my own little world at times. It's hard because I'm not in a long-term relationship that I can't like reference that to anyone, if that makes sense. But I guess if we are assuming that I'm not emotionally closed off, which all in all I would say I'm definitely emotionally switched on because I do a lot of reflection, do a lot of meditation, do a lot of journaling. I still go to therapy. So I do all these things. I think it would be that, just that, I have all the goals and stuff like that and the hard charging, fill in the blank, but I also make time for deep reflection, journaling, and like I say, therapy. So the two can be the two can like fight against each other a little bit at times. Like you like in that kind of like relaxed emotional state sometimes doesn't map across to like just like get the fucking thing done. So modulating those two modes, and I suppose this is exactly what the question is tapping into, can be difficult. But I think like just compartmentalizing and being like, okay, this is time for this is time for this, and then and then move between both. Music is a good modulator. Like for example, if I've done some like morning meditation and journaling and stuff, I can end up like a little bit kind of lazy. But then if I shove some music on and then kind of gets me like, woo, let's go. And then I'll like get to my desk and start working. And away we go. We're in ambitious mode again. So There you go. Hope that answers your question. How are we for time? Right, we're going to do a couple more. Let's have a look. Neil D says, what motivates you to do what you do? What do I do? What motivates me? A crippling sense of insecurity. What motivates me? Having a family, I think. Like everything really boils down to the fact that I want to have kids. And I think all of this, when you track it back, is like wanting to be the best version of me that I can be, like wanting to be the best dad I can be. So it's like this continuous self-improvement as Dove podcast. And there's also like the career side of things, like, just doing as well as I can in that respect. And then you've got like the financial stability and stuff like that for my future family, hierarchs. There's a couple of motivations with hierarchs. There's like the health side, but then there's the bit of the ego thing, like the performance. So but the ego performance side is probably, there's like visibility there, there's status. And of course with visibility and status, become like more likely that like you'll be attractive to women. Therefore like that trickles down to like the kids thing. And then like the health side of High Rocks is like, I want to be around for a long time. I want to be fit, strong, healthy, able to play with my kids despite being probably a very fucking old dad. Yeah. So yeah, it's all for that. And I think I do need to remind myself of that, quite often. Like sometimes I'll meet someone and let's say like they'll tick a few of the boxes, but like are a bit like a little bit like iffy on like the children side of things. And sometimes like there can be a tendency to be like, okay, we'll just see how it goes, like. But now I'm like, no. Number one priority. So, and I actually put this on my Instagram recently. Like, what do I want from a woman? It was like the number one thing, motherly. Like, wants to have a family. So now that becomes like number one filter. Like, why would I fuck around for anything less than that? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's what I want. So yeah. I can't remember what was the question. What was the question? What motivates you? Yeah. Okay. Right. Fuck it. Let's get through these. So Gemma says, you talk a lot about walking and reflection. What truths only surface when you slow down enough to hear them? These are good questions. I think usually that I want to help people. Like that's what fires me up, the idea of like helping others progress in life. And I think like, way back when, like I wanted to be a music teacher, and I don't know, I love teaching people about things. I love being a good role model, like in the community. So it always comes back to that. So you'll notice with a lot of my content, there's like, how to do goals and stuff like this. So there's like the learning side of it or the curiosity side of it for me, interviewing people. But there's also like the wanting to help others get a leg up on like who are in difficult situations, and like maybe like I have been in the past, and I can show them some paths that could be useful to them. So yeah, that's the one. And Rachel D says, you said recently that you are proud of holding boundaries without becoming rigid. Do you have any strategies for this? I tend to swing too far in either direction. Okay. Yeah, so this was in my end of year review, I believe. I must have mentioned it. So boundaries. So I think boundaries have to start with boundaries. Right? Obvious. But like start with like the fortification and then become flexible. I suppose you can do it either way, but it's easier. Like, let's say you're starting a relationship or you're starting a new job or whatever, like having them in place from the beginning is going to be much more easier than if you have already started a relationship and your boundaries are all over the fucking place. So those two different approaches. Doesn't mean you can't do either, but yeah, ideally, so start with those boundaries in place. If not, doesn't matter, you can still do it, but it's just going to be a little bit more difficult. And then I suppose it's a bit like football analogy, right? Like you need to like have a good defense first before you can go and score a goal or whatever. So focus on that. And you may have to like, it may be that you're in a situation where you don't need to protect your boundaries that much, like if you're in a cool working environment, but most of the time, like people push at the edges, myself included. It's just like a natural thing, like, just to ask a little bit more, or, oh, you don't suppose you could do this, or can you help me with this, or whatever. So you will, so a indicator that you are putting a boundary in place will be that it is uncomfortable. So if you feel uncomfortable doing it, that is an indicator that you are doing the right thing normally, or doing something worthwhile. Like, because if it's too easy, it probably isn't like doing much, if that makes sense. So there will be situations where you'll need to just be like, sorry, I'm not available. I would just be like, strategies. So you can just like, let's say it's work, turn your phone off, or just, not respond to things. I was saying like before about not responding to emails, like by sometimes not responding, like that's one way people will get the hint. But sometimes you might need to be more forthright in terms of just being like, I think it's hard because you don't want to come across as a dick, but just like acknowledging if someone sent you a message sometimes, or an email or whatever, I will get back to you on Monday. So start with the boundaries first. Like, you'll know what your boundaries are. Like if you want to like finish work at 5 o'clock or whatever, and that's be done, or other examples within a relationship, like I don't know whether you want your partner staying out until 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Your boundaries, so put them in place, and then from there, you can then choose to be flexible with them if you want to be. But if you do that, just make sure that, and I'm thinking more from like a work setting here, because I don't know if it works as much to the relationship side, but just be you need to communicate it that this is not normally what I would do, but I'm going to do it because I want to help you. Like, so whatever I'm going to do, stay late at work, but let them know the cost, but say I'm doing it as a one-off gesture because I want to help you get through this, but this is not normally what I would do. So and by doing that, the person is going to value you more. If that makes sense. So you just need to let it be known that you are going outside of a boundary that you would not normally do. So because the danger, if you don't do this, which you alluded to, by swinging too far away, if you don't do this, then it is expected every single week. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Recap, get the boundaries in place, like know exactly what you fucking want, and just be rigid at the beginning, but then give a little sometimes, because otherwise people are just think like you're not willing to do anything and bend for them, and then you're just gonna be a bit of a dick. So I hope that is helpful. Okay, very last one. Jason says, what is one idea that you're obsessed with at the moment? What is one idea that I'm obsessed with? So I'll tell you one thing I've been thinking about a lot is it'd be like systems thinking or trends, like systems and trends. And when I say systems, I don't mean like software systems or business systems. What I mean is like systems thinking in terms of like throughout society, there are systems in play everywhere. So think of them more like just like ways that we do things, and like trends, and like things that are like the way that, I don't know, the way that Instagram works is it's almost just like culturally set in place modes of operation that like everyone knows that, I don't know, the supermarkets close on 4 o'clock on a Sunday, something like that. That's a system that's in place. Or that there is people deliver via an app to your house. Like that's a system that's in place. And like, I don't know, I've not thought, but I'm just thinking about it, I'm just obsessed with it, and how like, so, and then it kind of, there's trends as well. So think about, one good example for this was, I noticed on Instagram, there they would have like Stranger Things font, right? And I was like, that's weird. Like, because like you would go to post something, the first font would be like Stranger Things, and then I recently watched Stranger Things. I was like, if I'd have seen that font, because it's like old 80s vibe, if I'd have seen that font 10 years ago, or I think maybe Stranger Things came out 10 years ago, I don't know, 15 years ago, right? If that font was on a social media platform, like it would look a bit shit, if that makes sense. But like trends are just fascinating, because it's like there's a point at which like something original is born, and then it has to get picked up by the masses or the system to then become like spread, if that makes sense. So it is in relation to like the frequency of how you see this other thing throughout society, is how much value is then placed on it. And because like this font was on Stranger Things or whatever, it's then like been upvoted throughout society, and therefore now it's on an Instagram app because it's been cool to have that font. So yeah, as you can see, I don't quite fully understand all this, but it's just something I'm very interested in. So something I've been thinking about a lot. And that's it. So that is all the questions. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all, and thank you for tuning in whenever you can. And don't forget, you can sign up. By the way, I've got a newsletter that I'm launching. So if you go to awakenoutofcontext.com, link in the description, you can sign up there and get alerts on new episodes, etc. And yeah, I hope that was interesting for you. Appreciate all the questions, and here's to the next 100. Hope you have a wonderful day.